Good morning, everyone. I forget what episode this is by now. I think 4 or 5. Regardless. Today we're going to talk about games I recommend, as it kind of goes hand in hand with the top games and game directions we talked about in the last podcast episode here. This one will probably be shorter, 10 to 15 minutes maybe. I just want to go over some games that you've probably heard of and played. Some of them are very popular, and some of them I would argue are a little more niche, but that's why we talk about. If you're listening, honestly, feel free to list your own games you recommend playing or that you're excited coming up. There's a lot of games coming out that I may try to buy one or two. And I'll also talk about games I'm playing on the side other than Darkest Dungeon, Black Reliquary at the moment. So I was just going through my Steam library. This is really in no particular order, just games I've had a lot of fun with and I would recommend buying. If you're a fan of the Souls series, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It's a little faster paced. There were some bosses where I felt were harder than some Dark Souls bosses, but overall I felt the game was slightly easier, a little more forgiving on the blocking and parrying system. Very hard to perfect. There is a very hard difficulty mode to it, which I never did because it's extremely difficult. Blocking still loses you HP, but perfect blocks do not, which is very tough to do. So game's incredibly difficult first time through, gets a lot easier obviously the next couple, but there's also that next tier as well, so it's very hard to perfect. The art style is beautiful. I really like the combat-based system. All the different tools and stuff you get are really cool as well. I really enjoyed the game. I did a quote-unquote speed run of it on this channel, so if you've never seen it before, you can kind of watch an episode and see me hopefully blaze through it. I think I finished the game sub 4 hours, which is pretty good since my first playthrough took a very long time. So I definitely recommend Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. It's like I said, it's a little more forgiving than Souls. It's faster moving, not quite as clunky. And from what I can tell, the community around it is not as insane on the get good culture. Granted, I hardly follow Sekiro, but it's obviously more of a Japanese style. Like I said, the visuals are just phenomenal. Pretty fluid gameplay. Lots of bosses, lots of fun bosses, lots of different mechanics. The HP system's kind of interesting in the game as well. It's not just like hack, kill, but it is kind of way, but not at the same time. You would know what I mean if you've played it, or seen me play it, or seen someone else play it, obviously. Highly recommend Sekiro if it's on sale. I like it a lot. It's just not a game that I ever saw a lot of possible content in. Not to say that there's not a lot of things you could do with it. However, I enjoy playing it through. Just not a game I personally wanted to put on the channel. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's probably, and I know I gushed over this game in the last one, and I'm not going to spend as long here. Well, I guess maybe as long. It's easily probably one of the best single player games out there. I mean, it just, the story wise, it's phenomenal. It's a great end to a trilogy. Even if you never played the first 2 games, the game alone is still great. And even if you just watch the cutscenes from the first 2 or read a synopsis of like what the stories are, it's an excellent finish. Yeah, people called it the Glitchers 3 when it came out. I mean, it had some issues, but what games don't have issues nowadays? With so many people playing, the prevalence of the internet, as we talked before, it's really easy to see a whole bunch of funny glitches and stuff nowadays. So the fact that when games come out with glitches, it's really not that surprising anymore. But I never had anything that like lost me the game. Fighting's pretty good. My only maybe main complaint about the game, it's not even really a complaint. It's just the initial XP grind is really slow, and then you hit the main story and just boost up in levels. Doesn't make the game bad, it's just kind of odd, that's all. It does require a lot of time, but it flies by. You can get lost in Witcher 3 for hours and hours and hours. Plenty of side stuff, plenty of great side stories, side missions. It's not just a great main mission, which is why I think the game's so popular. Wherever you go, there's always a little story, always a monster, always a little bit of something to keep you going. Easily probably one of the best open worlds, but also with a great story. So I'd highly recommend Witcher 3 when that goes on sale. By the way, those 2, after this, I'm going to put all the games and their names and links in the description and comment down below. Sekiro and Witcher 3 are pretty easy, but this next one, the next couple you've actually may not have heard before. So we're going to go into a game called Beholder. Beholder, I think it's supposed to simulate probably communist Russia. I can't remember. It's probably that. But anyway, it takes around place of World War II, and it shows the lifestyle and the moral decisions people have to make underneath a communist regime. So you're actually an owner, or the tenant, I can't remember, but you're the owner of an apartment building and you have people constantly moving in and out, but you keep getting these laws and regulations of people, they can't break stuff, but the only way you can make money is essentially getting people evicted for breaking the law and jailed, or having people leave on good terms, which is where this moral side comes in. Plenty of weird side stories. I like the premise of the game. It's a little different. It definitely does question your moral stuff, because if you play on harder modes, you're just not going to have enough money to do everything. Therefore, you have to start picking between your own son and daughter, other people's kids, other people's lives, and it does really create this weird moral dilemma. It's fun because you get to install cameras and spy on people and stuff like that. You can plant stuff, so it's a lot of cool. I don't want to go into it too much, because the first time we're through or two is really when you get like the whole experience. You have to make those hard decisions, and you're probably going to suck, because I know I did. I ended up, you can save throughout the game. It's not like, well, I can't remember how it goes. You do get checkpoints, I believe, but my first time through, holy crap, I barely got out by the skin of my teeth. I got some sad achievements in there because I was, like I said, I barely made it through. I absolutely recommend Beholder. There is a Beholder 2 I have not tried or played, so if you really like Beholder 1, or have played Beholder 1 and played Beholder 2, let me know if you really recommend Beholder 2. However, the first one I would definitely recommend. It's a lot of fun. There's only one thing in there I really disliked. It's a certain part of the mission where you just have to take your headphones off. Like the game, I don't really want to spoil it, but essentially a propaganda car comes outside your house and just plays constant propaganda, where you're like, oh, it can't be that bad. It's loud. It is super loud. And I literally just played the next 10 minutes with my headphones on the table because I couldn't hear anything else. Maybe that was by design, but regardless, that was probably my only real complaint with the game. Next one, once again, maybe a little niche, Long Live the Queen. It is a purely decision story narrative driven. You are a teenage girl. Where was it? Your mother? Yeah, your mother just died, so you're becoming the new queen of the kingdom. I don't remember what the kingdom's called anymore. But I believe it's 40 weeks if you live that long, which you probably won't your first time through, because there's a couple of brutal checks in the game that get you killed. So, there's that. However, it's really fun. It's probably going to be aggravating for the first 2 to 3, because you're going to get like a bunch of random checks about like lore or divination or animals. You're going to be like, when the heck would any of that apply? Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing, but after you play a couple times through, you get used to this stuff. There's plenty of guides on the internet. There's plenty of guides on Steam. I've made a couple with a lot of achievements as well. So if you ever pick up the game and you're wondering how you get a couple achievements, go to Steam. I believe I have my guides out there with the weeks broken down and everything. Or we can maybe do a playthrough or two on the channel. I think I have 1 or 2 on the channel actually. I play through them fairly quickly. So I really enjoyed Long Live the Queen. I can't talk about it too terribly much. All it is a very, your choices do matter. Your choices, your build, and it does have this weird mood thing. It's really cool. So all that really matters. It ultimately comes out, and you can have a lot of fun, different endings and tweaks to different endings as well, and build up to the stories. It's really awesome. I highly recommend buying Long Live the Queen. You can spend endless of hours just kind of doing stuff. You can be like a cruel ruler, a kind ruler. It's really fun. For such a simple game, I played the crap out of it. That's all I'm going to say. I absolutely played the ever-loving crap out of it. The Council. The Council's an odd game. I'm trying to think of it's like a Long Live the Queen, and if Telltale's kind of mashed together, I think. It might be more Telltale's related than honestly Long Live the Queen, but it's a decision-based game once again. It's probably more Telltale's related, but you have a couple of like items and skills that really bring out a different feel to the game. I got it in a Humble Bundle, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. I played the crap out of it. I played it 2 times through completely, I believe. I was trying to get all the achievements in the game. I think I did. There's a lot of different paths you can take. There's a lot of different options. There's some psychological aspects to it. And the weird thing about the Council is it's like, which time period would that be? It mashes a couple of different time periods together, like George Washington and all that. I don't know the exact date range, but it's kind of fun because it has historical figures all around the world. Like there's someone from Spain, I think Italy, Germany. I think there's Bismarck. So what's this, the 1800 something? It's in the 1800s, but like it's a weird time. Like you go back in time. Sorry, I'm blanking on a lot of my history right now. Go me. But yeah, you have different significant political figures all throughout the world. Stuff starts happening, and you need to figure out what is happening, and then the game eventually goes off the walls, and I won't say how or why, but it gets pretty crazy. I thoroughly enjoyed the council. If you never heard of it or seen some gameplay, I haven't posted any on my channel, but maybe I will. It's pretty quick, but once again, it's a pretty cool game. There's 3 different trees in the beginning. I think there's like Inspector. I can't remember, but I had a lot of fun. Look it up. If you love Telltales, you should love the council. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is an easy one. I mean, it's a really popular game. You've probably seen it. And if you have a lot of friends looking for a Minecraft-related game, obviously Terraria. Terraria is a great game. I played that thing throughout college so dang much. After college, when they got new patches, I came back to the game. It's just all around a great game. You can always be building, always viable weapons. It's fun when you find different ore. The only thing I'll say about it is it does require a lot of time. But so if you're in high school, college, or if you just want to mainline one game, you don't care about anything else, Terraria could really be the game for you. I've spent, I believe, hundreds of hours, maybe over 100 hours in it, probably. But we used to do certain like bosses and events over and over again. We would go, I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff, and they just kept adding to it. I don't know where the state of the game is anymore, like if they're going to add more or if they're eventually going to come out with a new game, but I know for the longest time they just kept dumping stuff onto Terraria for free, which is really awesome. I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's kind of like a Minecraft. It's a 2D Minecraft. Minecraft's obviously 3D. This is 2D, but it's still a lot of fun, a lot of great, like I said, items, terrains. There's 2 different worlds you can go into, so it's not like each world's exactly the same. Huge worlds are, or they call large, I don't know, they're large or huge. They are just utterly massive. You can go up and down, and yeah, it's a lot of cool stuff. I highly recommend Terraria. You could spend hours and hours just exploring and having fun in that game, for sure. And then finally, I had kind of 3 of the similar style of games, but I really like these style of games. They're the decision / Telltale story-rich games, because I believe those really bring out some memorable experiences. They're not like your generic shooters. Shooters can fall, sorry, quick side rant. Shooters for me can fall into a weird category where you're just literally running and gunning, and sometimes you're listening to the story, but not. You're like, I could really care less what the story says because I just want to shoot stuff, and the gunplay feels fun, which is absolutely important in a shooter. I mean, you don't want just the story to be good in a shooter, and then have your gunplay be crap or sound like crap or act like crap. So I totally get that. I often find myself doing that with shooters, so I don't blame you if you do as well. But The Wolf Among Us, if I didn't say it already. The Wolf Among Us is essentially if fairy tales, I guess, stuck with their original roots, or if they obviously could like do drinks, whore themselves out, do drugs. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. It should be rated. Why am I blanking? Video games are rated M, right? They should be M. Whatever. It's for a mature audience for sure. Let me pull it up to see what like the official thing says. But it's definitely not a if you are not of age, I would say 18 in America. Who knows what out in Europe, but it should be rated pretty high because there's definitely some moments in there where you're like, yep, that's pretty brutal. I actually don't even know where to look up. Now I think about it, I don't even know where to look up where video games are rated on Steam anymore. I've been playing Steam so long on, I really got into Steam when I was 19 or 20, so age restrictions obviously never bothered me. But honestly, I don't even know where you find that anymore. Yeah, regardless, if you are a parent listening and you thought about buying a game for your kid, I would, there are certainly some things in here that are probably way more mature that you would maybe want to wait and see or play through yourself to determine if your kid should be able to play it. When I say kid, you can determine that age. This is probably the only game on here I'd actually give that huge. Oh, well, Witcher 3 actually. Witcher 3 is that warning as well. But The Wolf Among Us. I mean, if you just look at the tags to it, let's see. There is, it says mature already. There's nudity in it. Oh, okay. I'm surprised it didn't say anything about like gore or blood or anything. It does say action, but regardless, there's some really crazy stuff in there. Storybook. So highly recommend The Wolf Among Us. It was a great game. I enjoyed it. I actually wanted to play a second time through, but I never really got back to it. So maybe I'll do that shortly after this. And finally, a game I'm playing the middle of, but have not necessarily finished yet, is Octopath Traveler. And guess what? They named the game appropriately because there are 8 people you can choose from, and there's 8 different paths and stories. So Octopath, and guess what? You travel. It's a very appropriate name. Sometimes video games, it's hit or miss on the name, but Octopath Traveler definitely delivers on the name. It's a JRPG style technically, but it's very reminiscent of like the older Final Fantasies, not the newer ones where you're like 3D, definitely 2D. The 2D scenarios are very pretty. I am probably about halfway through. Once again, the only thing I would maybe say, there's 2 aspects that may or may not drive me crazy. There's no shared XP, so you can only have 4 people in your party at a time, which means the other 4 people fall behind in levels, which is super frustrating because if you want to do everyone's story, guess what? You have to bring in them, and it's just frustrating because it's not like each 8 of individuals are so unique in terms of mechanics. There's essentially 4 main mechanics. You can steal or buy. That's one mechanic. You can provoke or duel. That's another mechanic. You can allure or guide. And then you can inquire or scrutinize. Those are like the 4 main mechanics. So essentially, if you have one of each one, you can essentially go through the whole game, which is very nice. That's a positive of it. But the negative is you have to like bring everyone up, increase their XP level and all that stuff. So usually you have like 4 people way high in XP and then you have everyone else behind. That's okay. And the other thing is there's a lot of percentage-based chances stuff. You don't need to do it to progress through the game, but some stuff's like really good. And I feel as if the RNG just sometimes is not with you and spend a lot of time saving, loading, just to try to get one good item somewhere. Once again, not absolutely mandatory in the game, but for me, when I see something really good and it's like a 7% chance, I get it. That's a low percent chance. But when I try about 25 times in a row, I start questioning if it really is 7% to get it. So those are the games I would maybe recommend looking into or trying. If you've played the games, definitely back me up or say, maybe you missed the mark on that. I actually didn't have a lot of fun with that, and I'd recommend these 2 games instead. There's only so much time in the world and in my life. Obviously, with more people who watch this, you've probably delved down other paths with very similar games. These games are all fairly, I'll call quote-unquote bigger names. Maybe the smallest ones on here are probably The Council, Beholder, and maybe Long Live the Queen, though I feel like that has at least some decent traction if you play those style of games already. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you Monday.